Judge Amy Coney Barrett has been absolutely stellar during her Senate confirmation hearings. What will the Democrats throw at her next? Joe Biden has been on a gaffe roll over the past couple days. Plus, the World Health Organization has now come out against lockdowns. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with Judge Amy Coney Barrett and the Senate confirmation hearings because she has been absolutely awesome, just brilliant in her responses and the way she counters the Democrats. The whole proceedings, there's several key elements that have emerged, and I'll go over those, but I want to give you just some highlights from the last couple days, her taking on the Democrats, her responses, and the angle that the Democrats are going after. So here is Democrat Senator Amy Klobuchar. She's asking about Roe v. Wade, and Judge Barrett comes back at her with the definition, basically schooling her on what super precedent is all about.
People use super precedent differently.
Okay.
The way that it's used in the scholarship and the way that I was using it in the article that you're reading from was to define cases that are so well settled that no political actors and no people seriously push for their overruling. And I'm answering a lot of questions about Roe, which I think indicates that Roe doesn't fall in that category.
All right, so what Klobuchar and the other Democrats are trying to do is paint Roe v. Wade as somehow untouchable, that it's a super precedent, meaning you can't revisit it, which that's a whole other story right there that I'll get into. But she's trying to paint Roe v. Wade in this corner. And Judge Barrett says, look, it doesn't apply here. Super precedent are those kind of cases that aren't revisited again because everyone agrees on them, like Brown versus Board of Education, which got rid of segregation in public schools. There's no cases coming up where people are trying to put segregation back. It's just not happening. So that case kind of falls into what's known as a super precedent. But Klobuchar kept pushing, trying to pin Barrett down, naming other cases that could be super precedent, just so she could come back to Roe v. Wade. So finally, Barrett came at her with this.
Senator Klobuchar, if you continue to ask questions about super precedents that aren't on the list of the super precedents that I discussed in the article that are well acknowledged in the constitutional law literature, every time you ask the question, I will have to say that I can't grade it.
Okay.
All right, that was just an awesome response. And then we have Democrat Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who goes off on this monologue about dark money and all these money flowing into interest groups with sinister conservative agendas. And Amy Barrett's like the pawn. She is the pawn, the final piece in the puzzle to overturn all this legislation that Democrats have worked so hard for, Obamacare and gay marriage and Roe v. Wade. She's the linchpin. She's going to get all this dark money, finally is going to pay off. And he has charts and graphs, and it has nothing to do actually with Barrett at all. Here's Whitehouse.
So how are people going about doing it? What is the scheme here? Let me start with this one. In all cases, there's big anonymous money behind various lanes of activity.
So again, it's big dark money funneling in so they can get rid of Obamacare and gay marriage and Roe v. Wade. All these layers and anonymous contributions. Whitehouse just goes off on and on and on. But what's funny is that shortly after he spoke, Senator Ted Cruz got up there and he blasted Whitehouse and he gave the real picture of the so-called dark money anonymous contributions.
Of the top 20 organizations spending money for political speech in the year 2016, 14 of them gave virtually all of their money to Democrats. And another 3 split their money evenly. So only 3 of the top 20 gave money to Republicans. What did that mean in practice? That meant the top 20 super PAC donors contributed $422 million to Democrats and $189 million to Republicans.
So Cruz just absolutely destroyed Whitehouse. And Cruz went on to say that in this election cycle, more of the Fortune 500 companies giving to Biden, Wall Street giving to Biden. It's the swamp. It's the deep state, all entrenched, wanting Biden there because they think they can get their way, that they can push him. That's why the left loves him, because they've got their claws into him and they can push him anyway. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's saying. That's why the left loves him. And for Cruz to come back and show where this dark money's actually going was awesome. But in the meantime, Amy Coney Barrett was absolutely stellar. She was addressing the Democrats, trying to pin her down on the issues. And over again, she came back to the central point. And the reason that President Trump nominated her is because she is an originalist, a textualist. She will interpret the Constitution as written. That's where she looks at it. That's how she comes down. That's her approach. And here it was an interesting exchange with Senator John Cornyn from Texas and Barrett.
Most of us have multiple notebooks and notes and books and things like that in front of us. Can you hold up what you've been referring to in answering our questions? Is there anything on it?
That letterhead that says United States Senate.
So that's just awesome. She's just sitting there, bottle of water, blank notepad, answering anything that these guys throw at her, these Democrats. I mean, just on and on, trying to pigeonhole her, trying to advocate for or against issues, which is not what she's about at all. The issues don't matter. It's how did this law, this policy, is it constitutional or not? That's where she's coming from. That's what she's all about. And she's showing the Democrats that in that Senate Judiciary Committee room, she's the smartest one in the room. Without a doubt, it's just been awesome. All right, so next, let's talk about Joe Biden. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. We're making our push for 100,000 subscribers by Election Day. 100K by Election Day. We're over 95,000 right now, folks. So just please subscribe. We can do it with your help. All right, let's talk about Joe Biden, because people were talking about it after the debate. He looked like he kind of regrouped. I think they timed it so his energy would be right there, because normally he's not out campaigning. He calls a lid on the day's events, the day's political activities by 10 a.m. Well, now it's in the home stretch. He's forced to actually get out. And now that he's getting out, you see the errors. You see the blunders. You see the nonsensical things he's saying. He gets rattled. He gets frustrated. And you're seeing it more and more often. It's just amazing. Recall last Friday, he's been evading this court packing question, and he's finally pushed on it by a reporter.
Well, sir, don't the voters deserve to know?
No, they don't. I'm not going to play his game. He'd love me to talk about, and I've already said something on packing.
So voters don't deserve to know. Voters don't deserve to know. He went on to say later that what President Trump is doing with the court is unconstitutional, which doesn't make any sense. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. That was just the start of a series of bizarre comments. And here's the story. No sooner had Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden put the gaffe machine narrative to rest with a relatively flub-free debate that he revved it up again with one appearance in Ohio. Mr. Biden said he was running for the Senate. He mixed up former Senators Robert Byrd and Ted Kennedy. He gave the wrong voter registration website. He forgot the name of Senator Mitt Romney, calling him the senator who was a Mormon, the governor. Okay? Every politician makes misstatements. Even the unflappable President Obama once said he had been to 57 states. But Mr. Biden's pattern of blunders has raised questions about whether the former vice president still has what it takes as he approaches his 78th birthday. So, like the story said, this all happened in one trip, folks. He goes to talk about a website, totally messes up the name, mixes up senators' names, says he's running for the Senate, which he's done that before. And then Mitt Romney, Senator Romney, that's just some Mormon guy. You know that Mormon guy? Come on, man. I mean, it's just nuts. And here's more. Former White House physician Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who served from 2013 to 2018 in the Obama and Trump administrations, said bluntly Tuesday that Mr. Biden is not up to the job. I've watched Joe Biden on the campaign trail, and I'm concerned that he does not have the mental capacity, the cognitive ability to serve as our commander-in-chief. He routinely gets lost in the middle of a thought and can't recalibrate, Dr. Jackson said on a press call arranged by the Trump campaign. So what Dr. Jackson is saying is something that we've seen over and over again. We've seen this for months We've seen it back during the Democrat primary campaigns. Just give them a chance to speak, because we've seen what happened just this week so far, and it's not good. All right, so now let's talk about coronavirus, because on the last show, I went into one of my COVID rants. I'm not going to go over that today, but when 15,000 health experts sign on to a letter, a document saying lockdowns are bad, that gets me fired up. So I had to go on a rant. Today, though, I want to put a few more tidbits together to give you a coronavirus update segment, and it starts with the World Health Organization, which is now coming out against lockdowns. And here's the story. The World Health Organization has warned leaders against relying on COVID-19 lockdowns to tackle outbreaks, after previously saying countries should be careful how quickly they reopen. WHO envoy Dr. Robert Nabarro said such restrictive measures should only be treated as a last resort, the British magazine The Spectator reported in a video interview. We in the World Health Organization do not advocate lockdowns as the primary means of control of this virus, Nabarro said. Well, what do you know? Lockdowns are bad. Who's been talking about that for months and months and months? Many of you have too, from the comments. Please leave your comments to this. See what you think about all these updates, because it's just nuts. That's lockdowns. What about masks? All right, surely masks are doing the job, right? They're just the thing to do, the way to go to help stop the spread, even though Dr. Fauci said don't wear them at first. Surgeon General said don't wear them at first. They weren't effective is what they said. Then it became a political statement. You were actually trying to shame you into wearing masks, but they've got to be all right, right? Here's the story. A survey conducted by over a dozen medical institutions for the CDC and published in September 11th's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report showed that 85% of those who contracted COVID-19 during July among the study group either always or often wore face coverings within the 14 days before they were infected. More than 70% of outpatient individuals who tested positive reported always wearing masks. Just 3.9% reported never wearing a mask. 85% of those infected always or often wore a mask. 85%, folks. But this became a political statement. It became something that you had to do. Commercials here in Houston showed athletes saying, mask up. Oh my gosh, mask up. 85% of those masked up still got it. It's gonna spread. I mean, give me a break. All right, so what about people going back to school? Kids going back to school, huddled together. Surely that has to be a super spreader, right? Here's that story. Elementary and high schools do not appear to be COVID-19 super spreaders, new data suggests, a finding that threatens to turn some pandemic theories on their head. Statistics involving 200,000 school kids from 47 states in the last 2 weeks of September yielded an overall coronavirus infection rate of 0.13% among students and 0.24% for staffers, according to the Brown University economics professor Emily Oster and her team of number crunchers. All right, so that's 1.3 cases for every 1,000 students. Oh my gosh, yet we had to stay locked down. This was going to be a super spreader. You couldn't bring them together. Issue after issue after issue that was pushed by the left to promote fear is showing to be not true. Oh my gosh, folks. It's just absolutely crazy. All right, so let's talk about Nancy Pelosi, because the heat is coming after her. And as we've seen over the last year, her political judgment has been very suspect. Whether it's impeachment or Ukraine or whatever, she has just been on the wrong side of politics. Now it's the coronavirus stimulus. She is the one delaying it, folks. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues, President Trump has been ready to deal. He'd sign a straightforward bill for stimulus checks right now, but they want a whole big package. He keeps upping the price, offering more, and she is holding back. And the media and Democrats are even calling her on it. Look at this exchange with Nancy Pelosi and CNN. This is CNN's Wolf Blitzer.
Let me just quote Ro Khanna, a man you know well. I assume you admire him. He's a Democrat. And he just said this. He said, people in need can't wait until February. $1.8 trillion is significant and more than twice the Obama stimulus. Make a deal. Put the ball in McConnell court. So what do you say to Ro Khanna?
What I say to you is, I don't know why you're always an apologist, and many of your colleagues apologists for the Republican position.
Wait a second. Accusing CNN of being cheerleaders for Republicans? This is awesome. This is absolutely awesome. But it just shows the heat that she's feeling. Because again, Democrats are coming out, starting to say more, say, sign this deal, or Americans need relief. There are businesses that won't come back unless they get this relief. People are still out of work because lockdowns are continuing in some places. They need the help. She is the one holding it back. And here's more of her meltdown.
Now, yesterday I spoke to Andrew Yang, who says the same thing. It's not everything you want,
but you know
but
what?
there's a lot there.
Honest to God, you really, I can't get over it, because Andrew Yang, he's lovely. Ro Khanna, he's lovely. They are not negotiating this situation. They have no idea of the particulars. They have no idea of what the language is here. I didn't come over here to have, so you're the apologist for.
All right, folks, I just love it. I absolutely love it. She's painted into a corner. She's trying to fight back, and she sounds just hysterical. It is crazy. And again, she is the roadblock. She is the one holding back coronavirus relief. The Senate's ready to go. House is ready to go. President Trump said, go big on this or go home. That's what he recently tweeted. She is the roadblock, and she needs to get moving. Because once it does, and the reason she's holding it back is because this will be a big win for the American people and a big win for President Trump. Folks, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching, and before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified, and here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.